Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxom, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxom, rock-solid markets.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxom, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at roxom.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
Today on the Blockchain Report, Bitcoin's dropped back down to around 113K, and it might be because Donald Trump says he probably won't run for a third term, which is great since he legally can't. Elon Musk asked Grok if Bitcoin can be hacked because when in doubt, ask your AI sidekick if it's time to panic sell. And a $14 billion Bitcoin heist gets exposed, making Lubian look like the FTX of mining pools. All that and more right now on today's show. Let's go! Good morning and welcome back, my blockchain beauties, to another episode of the Blockchain Report. I'm Hank Hudson reporting live from San Francisco, where sourdough is gluten-free and the Teslas drive themselves off cliffs. It's Tuesday, the day your weekend dreams are officially over and decomposed into Google Calendar reminders and missed crypto pumps. Now, before we dive into today's digital dumpster fire of tokenized lawsuits, central bank cosplay, and AI-generated press releases written by unpaid interns, let's do some light financial role play ourselves. Pretend you're bullish on your own life choices and punch that button like it rugged your portfolio. And while you're at it, follow RoxomTV and me at Hank at RoxomTV, because trusting Instagram influencers for investment advice is how Ponzi schemes get their wings. Now, before we get into the news, let's see who's still standing in this morning's market rundown. Let's go. All right, it's Tuesday. Let's see how the gods of crypto are treating us this morning. And it's not favorable, I'm afraid to say. Right now, Bitcoin's down about almost 2% in the last 24 hours. We're sitting just beneath that 113K mark. Donald Trump came and said he's not going to be probably not running for president next time. Again, he can't legally do that, but the market didn't really love the news. Ethereum following suit. They're down over 3.5 percentage points this morning, sitting above 3,500 bucks. XRP down below $3. Cardano is down 3.5%, around 73 cents a pop. And Dogecoin down below 20 cents after a 5% drop this morning. Not looking great. Let's see if TradFi is looking any better. Ooh, it is not. Bloodbaths all around, but a little bit less so here. Dow Jones is down 153 points so far today. The NASDAQ Composite's down 77. The S&P 5 is sitting right above that $6,300 mark. MicroStrategy down nearly 2.5 percentage points this morning. Tesla down $2 to 307. Coinbase down nearly 4.5 to 5% today, currently sitting at 303 a share. Nvidia is down about 1.3%, and GameStop, the one lone bright spot of the morning, is up almost 1.5 percentage points. We got a lot to cover today, gang, so let's go right to this morning's bull run. Camera one, let's do it. All right, so welcome to this morning's Bull Run, where we go over the top stories of the day. Before we get going, though, we are going to be joined in the Bull Run by a very special guest. He is one of the masterminds behind MSTR True North, the high signal, no BS investment club for serious Bitcoiners and macro thinkers. He's got conviction, he's got clarity, and a laser-eyed lens on where Bitcoin strategy and asymmetric bets are headed next. Let's give a big blockchain report welcome to the one and only ADRIAN Morris. ADRIAN, welcome to the show. We are super excited to have you, and so is our audience. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, especially after that very, very energetic intro. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's early, so we're trying to get everybody pumped up here. You know, it's exciting times for all, and we're certainly excited to have you on the show. Before we get into the news and what's it's, tell us a little bit about yourself, ADRIAN. Tell us about you, MSTR True North. What's it all about?
Myself, I'm a long-time Bitcoiner. I've been in Bitcoin since about 2012. I have a day job and whatnot, but I've been an active investor in the markets for much longer than that. MSTR True North just kind of coalesced together very, very organically. We were all guys that were talking about MicroStrategy before it was strategy, and we just were messaging each other back and forth, and we were sharing ideas back and forth. And then Jeff and Ryan decided to get a group together, and the rest is history. We've been live streaming every Wednesday night, or almost every Wednesday night, for several months now. We are approaching, I think it'll be our 40th episode. So things have been going very well, and we are just trying to do our best to educate the community, make sure that everyone is aware of the dynamics that are involved with strategy, and help them understand why this is one of the most bullish opportunities of our generation.
That's right, and we're certainly excited to have you providing that high-level signal with us today. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our first story. You hang tight. As soon as we're done, we're going to bring you back and chat about it. Sound good?
Looking forward to it.
All right, rock and roll. Well, first up, Bitcoin took a bit of a tumble this morning because President Donald Trump, he opened his mouth. The self-proclaimed crypto president said he probably won't run for a third term, which is kind of like saying you probably won't enter a locked building without keys. Because in case anyone forgot, the good old U.S. Constitution, that little document that we still technically go by, has this thing called the 22nd Amendment. And it clearly states no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And just to be extra clear, it adds no person who has held the office of president for more than 2 years shall be elected more than once. So, yeah, unless Trump finds a constitutional cheat code, the only thing he's running for in 2028 is the remote. Still, rumors have swirled for months about a possible Trump 2028 campaign, because if there's one thing the man loves more than Twitter and tariffs, it's teasing power that he doesn't have. After Trump said he would like to run again, but probably won't, Bitcoin almost immediately lost $1,500. It dropped like it had a Trump tweet alert set on CoinMarketCap. Now, was it this presidential announcement that triggered the dump, or was it something else he said in the same hour, like a proposed trade deal with China, perhaps? Or another round of tariffs targeting India? At this point, honestly, it's kind of hard to tell. And Trump's market influence is kind of like a flashbang grenade at this point in time. He opens his mouth and everyone just kind of flinches. Bitcoin, which has been riding high since Trump won in 2024, and after this round of verbal chaos, it got body slammed. I mean, look, Trump may not run again, but his words still definitely move the markets, even when they make no constitutional sense. All right, we're bringing Adrian back. Adrian, do you think markets are overreacting to Trump's offhand political comments, or is this volatility justified based on his past influence over Bitcoin policy?
I think that one thing that investors should be aware of is that markets move on sentiment, and the president of the largest economy in the world will likely have a disproportionate impact on markets depending on the way he chooses his words. And that's not me getting political or anything like that. That's just me highlighting the facts of the matter. And I also think that just given what we've seen in the markets this year, you know, we had that brief tariff Armageddon. We had the situation with, Israel bombing Iran and vice versa. We have the ongoing situation with Russia and Ukraine. We have a lot of different macroeconomic and geopolitical events that are perhaps exerting some sway on the markets. And I think right now the market is just looking for a clear eye forward. And that can come in the form of a set guidance around tariffs, because I don't think that the plan is steady state just yet. And I also think that could be playing into why the Fed hasn't cut interest rates just yet. But in this kind of a market, any sort of sentimental commentary or shift will have a disproportionate reaction. So this is just a dip. I don't really think it's a signal of anything structural or anything more significant. I just think that the markets are doing what they do, and they react on sentiment, and we're seeing it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, love him or hate him, right? Trump has been arguably Bitcoin's most powerful political ally, at least this year. And if he's out in 2028, what do you think happens to the crypto president narrative, and does it weaken the Bitcoin bull case politically as we move forward?
Well, in 2028, I don't know if any candidate for either party, whether Democrat or Republican, can come out against Bitcoin at this point. We have too much corporate adoption. We have BlackRock, we have Fidelity, we have just a fundamentally different view on Bitcoin overall. And I'm not sure if any political candidate would want to take on derailing that. So, granted, I could be jinxing this by saying that, but I do think that in 2028, I don't think that Bitcoin is going to face any significant political headwinds, at least in terms of the United States presidential election. So, at that point, it just becomes, are there going to be someone that's bullish like Trump? So are there going to be someone from Trump's cabinet? Is it going to be the vice president? Is it going to be Vivek Ramaswamy? Is it going to be someone like that? Or is it going to be someone from the Democratic Party that highlights themselves as an ally towards cryptocurrencies. I think, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, because Bitcoin and crypto are not the same thing. I do believe that the Warrens and the Genslers of the world are pretty much done in terms of political discourse when it comes to swaying the discourse in Washington around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So I think the future is bright for Bitcoin. I don't know if anyone politically can derail it, really.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think we're at a point where we are in too deep. There's too much institutional money, therefore too much influence across the board for anyone to just truly ignore Bitcoin going forward. So I think whether people like it or not, it is here to stay regardless of who is running for office in 2028. And kind of to your point, you know, are we relying on political figures as a sign? Excuse me. So at this stage, regardless of who is in office next, do you feel like the fact that we're kind of relying on political figures as a sign of what could or could not be coming next kind of indicate that the space itself still lacks the true independence that Bitcoin is all about? Or was this always going to kind of happen naturally anyways as Bitcoin gains a stronger foothold in our financial ecosystem?
I don't know if Bitcoin is relying on politics. If we go back to Bitcoin's inception to now, Bitcoin crossed 1 trillion market cap with politicians fighting it the entire way. So I think what we're seeing right now is what's happening in the space is that Bitcoiners, or rather the general discourse coming from Bitcoiners, seem more supportive towards politicians because they're finally not fighting us, right? So I don't know if we're relying on politicians. I think that it could be that the space is embracing that the political process is going to be part of Bitcoin's growth, and they're seeking to not obfuscate it further because it's already been obfuscated for 15 years, right? So right now, I think we want to get into this next 15 years where we say, okay, fine. The politicians are here. They've been fighting us. They want in. Let's move forward. That's kind of the overall view that I have on what's happening. In terms of what's going on with or without politicians, like we just highlighted and you just highlighted, I hate to keep using the same adage, but nothing stops this train. Bitcoin's going to move forward. Larry Fink, as I call him, Uncle Larry, did not get into this to have politicians dissuade him from his path. So I think that once the BlackRock ETF got approved, and we've been seeing the inflows and we've been seeing the growth, that was pretty much the death knell for any kind of political opposition, in my view. So I think Bitcoiners are just embracing the process. There's some that are still very, very vocal against it, to be expected. But quite frankly, I don't know if we're relying on politicians. I think we're just embracing the fact that they're part of the process. So yeah, we're going to go up and to the right is basically what I think. So I don't think anything really stops it right now, and I don't think we need the politicians. I think the politicians are just now along for the ride.
Yeah, but I think there's something to be said, as we've seen with Trump. The right person or people could certainly accelerate the Bitcoin adoption process. I just out of curiosity, from your seat at the table, is there anyone that you're kind of looking at now that maybe in 2028 you'd be like, I could see them maybe pushing the Bitcoin play even further, who's maybe an advocate? You said like Vivek, for instance, or maybe there's some others. Is there anyone else maybe you'd like to see get into the mix because you think they'd be good for the Bitcoin ecosystem and adoption as we move forward to the end of the rest of this decade?
I'm reluctant to give endorsements for any candidate. So I was okay with Trump because I thought he'd be pro Bitcoin. But the pushback I would give is that I don't think Trump has accelerated anything. I think that this was going to happen, and the market was going to do what it was going to do, regardless of whether it was going to be Trump or Kamala Harris. And I say that, and I may aggravate people by saying it, because we had the SBR, that moved forward. Nothing's really happened with that. We've had legislation that's kind of cleared some roadblocks in terms of stable coins, in terms of maybe banks custodying Bitcoin, in terms of broader adoption, sure. But I don't know if that's a function of Trump as much as, like I said, it's a function of what the market wants. The reality of it is that if we had another Biden term, could he have tried to obfuscate? Sure. Would he have won? I don't think so. I think that he would have likely faced staunch opposition to his opposition, or whether it would be Harris or whomever. So I don't want to put this at the feet of any one political candidate saying that they are pushing things forward. I think it just seems that way because Trump is the first candidate that hasn't been directly obfuscating Bitcoin's progress. But I also like to point out that this is, again, the reason why I say it's the market getting what the market wants is because people just love to forget that Trump was vehemently anti-Bitcoin and said he wanted to kill it in his last presidency. So this turn of phrase right now, I think, is a representation of what the market wants, not so much what Trump actually thinks. So that said, going forward, could Vivek be a good candidate? Perhaps. Could there be a Democratic candidate that comes forward that would provide a boost to the narrative? Perhaps. But again, I don't think we are reliant on any one politician from any one party. This is moving forward. And it's just a matter of what politician is going to get on the train and what politician is going to be trying to derail it. And I don't think any politician right now is going to actively try to derail it, and I don't think they'll have any success if they did.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. At this point, if you're going against this train that's moving, you're going to be in for a bit of a crash yourself. So why even put yourself in the way that it seems like the world is moving anyway? So I agree with you on that one. All right, hang tight, Adrian. We got another story. I'm going to bring you back to chat about it in just a second. Because Bitcoin, believe it or not, has been feeling pretty chill lately. In fact, it's been the least dramatic it's been over a year. According to Blockforce Capital, Bitcoin's annualized 60-day volatility dropped to 28% back on July 30th. That's the lowest it's been since August of 2023. And if 60 days wasn't boring enough for you, the 30-day volatility dropped even lower to 25% on July 23rd. That's the most subdued Bitcoin has been since October of 2023. So yeah, Bitcoin's mood right now is basically chamomile tea and a weighted blanket. Sounds nice. And all of this tranquility happened during a month where Bitcoin's price ranged from 105 to over 122K. So we're not talking about stablecoin levels of stillness here. This was real price movement, but without the whiplash. Now, this drop in volatility didn't happen in a vacuum. July also saw something extremely rare: regulatory progress in the United States. Three crypto regulation bills passed through the House. One of them, the Genius Act, was even signed into law by President Trump. A month so bullish, even Congress couldn't mess it up. The House also gave us Crypto Week starting July 14th, because nothing screams serious monetary policy like theme weeks. The SEC chipped in too, issuing guidance on exchange-traded products July 1st, which led to a predictable stampede of ETP applications. And in a rare sighting of an SEC official saying something not openly hostile to crypto, Hester Peirce invited blockchain companies to talk to the agency about tokenized securities. It's almost like they're trying to be helpful? So what does this all actually mean? Well, when the adults in the room stop trying to destroy the industry, the kids get a little calmer. Bitcoin's volatility drops. Entrepreneurs stop panic selling to buy ramen. And maybe, just maybe, we get a functioning market. Now just imagine that. All right, we're bringing Adrian back. Adrian, some are calling Bitcoin's low volatility a sign of market maturity. Others say it's a calm before the storm. What's your take?
I think it's a sign of market maturity. As assets grow, they tend to get more stable rather than more volatile. I think if you take a look at from the time that the BlackRock ETF was approved, that all the ETFs rather were approved, Bitcoin's volatility has been kind of ticking downward. And that is a representation of a maturing market in my view. If we go back to what gold did when the gold ETFs were launched, it kind of went stair-stepped up and to the right for like 8 years or something like that. Don't quote me on that figure, but it was something along those lines. And I think we have a similar future in store for Bitcoin. Are we going to be seeing the 80% drawdowns? I don't think so. Are we going to be seeing the 6 and 7x run-ups? I don't think so. And that is, again, not so much a statement of the volatility, but I think a fact that goes often unmentioned or unrealized is that this is the first cycle where Bitcoin is experiencing a market that doesn't have near zero interest rates or broad stimulus coming from the government. From Bitcoin's inception in 2009 all the way through to 2022, it was experiencing near zero interest rates. It was experiencing government stimulus that entire way through. So the boom bust cycles we saw, I think, are more a function of that stimulus rather than some kind of inherent cycle-driven narrative that must happen fait accompli with Bitcoin. So if you think about it, liquidity seeks quality while stimulus seeks speculation. What we're seeing right now is liquidity seeking quality, and that is why Bitcoin has been seeing its run up since, in my view, the ETFs have launched. If we had stimulus, I think we'd be seeing a similar cycle dynamic play out. And I think that bears out by the general trends we saw with Ethereum. It took a longer while for Ethereum to get that institutional bid, but now we're seeing that it's going up. But if we look at the altcoin market, there's so many altcoins right now that the hype train has been diluted. And because there's not stimulus, there's less frenzy. Sure, some altcoins are seeing returns, but it's nowhere near what I saw in in the previous two cycles. In those previous two cycles, I can close my eyes and throw a dart at a board and pick an altcoin and make money. That is not what's happening now. So the reality of it is a maturing market is happening in tandem with growing liquidity without stimulus in a higher interest rate environment. If that doesn't scream a maturing market to people, I don't know what does. So I think we stair step up and to the right over the next several decades. And what's going to really likely happen is that many, for lack of a better term, tourists are going to get very, very frustrated, expecting Bitcoin to rip to $500,000 and so they can get out. And quite frankly, I think that's for the best. I think that what we will see in terms of broad adoption is better served by Bitcoin showing stability versus the boom bust cycles we've seen in the past. Also, another piece of that puzzle is that because of the corporate adoption, so whether that be from strategy or institutional adoption from BlackRock, the cycle is going to play out different. I don't even know if we're going to have a cycle. And I say that because previous cycles, because of that stimulus effect I've been discussing, that boom bust effect, what happens is people go into Bitcoin, Bitcoin runs up, then they go into altcoins run further because of the lower market cap and the ability for money to move those markets, and then everyone leaves, and then the market crashes. Right now, what we're seeing is institutions issuing equity and raising capital to buy Bitcoin, and all they're doing with the increase in stock price is rotating that back into more Bitcoin. So that capital rotation effect is going to be very, very muted. And I think that the participants in the market right now are disincentivized to sell. Someone holding the BlackRock ETF or the Fidelity ETF for Bitcoin is not going to rotate from Bitcoin into Fartcoin or Pepe or Dog with Hat or whatever other meme coins we have in the cycle. So it's a fundamentally different investor base. I think retail right now is being largely represented by the Bitcoin treasury companies and the large run-up we're seeing in those. And those are essentially acting like the altcoins this cycle. So by and large, what we're seeing is just a very, very large and diversified Bitcoin cycle playing out right now. And sorry, that was a very, very long answer, but those are just my general thoughts.
No, the long answers, we're here for it. You made a really nice phrasing. I don't know if you've coined this or not. So liquidity seeks quality, stimulus seeks speculation. Did you coin that, or is that like a known phrase? Because that was the first time I've heard of that.
That's something I say. I don't know if someone said it before, but that's just something that I say.
Put that on a shirt. I like that. That was good. And you brought up some really interesting points there. We talked about the lack of, you said like, that's been a big narrative this cycle, is are we going to be seeing these same cycles as we had seen them in the past? Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan has come straight out and said he doesn't think we're going to be seeing cycles in the same way going forward. Do you think that is in part because retail isn't buying into these altcoins the same way, because they would usually carve that froth off the top of the high Bitcoin price, chase those high alpha plays, but now we're seeing all of this institutional adoption, and I don't think MicroStrategy is going to be selling at the top of their Bitcoin earnings to be putting anything in Pepe coin. So do you think that things like that, the institutional plays, the ETFs, the macro clarity, the regulatory structure, are those the things that are actively suppressing the volatility right now and going forward?
Yes, I think that they are feeding the growth and simultaneously suppressing the volatility. Now, we can touch on a few points that you just made. Anyone that researches MICHAEL Saylor, he's not selling. He is a very, very seasoned, battle-tested investor in in these markets, and he did not get into Bitcoin to sell at the top. So that's not happening, and that's over 600,000 Bitcoin right there. BlackRock, Fidelity together, I think they hold over like 800,000 or something like that. They're representing their clients, and their client base is not seeking frenzy. They're seeking quality, right? They're not seeking speculation. They're seeking quality. So yes, I do think so. And I also think that, ironically enough, the success that strategy had last cycle, so when they adopted the Bitcoin Treasury strategy, they went from 1 billion market cap now to over 100 billion market cap. That success is what's fueling Bitcoin Treasury adoption now. And we're seeing the net result of that in the fact of all the corporate adoption. The Bitcoin Treasury companies, in my view, have sucked a lot of the frenzy that we have seen in altcoins away from the altcoin market. And retail investors are piling in to these treasury companies, and they have very, very vibrant communities. You have Semler Scientific, Metaplanet, Smarter Web, Capital. You have so many different companies right now. Those are just some of the primary ones that I've mentioned. Those aren't all of them. There's over 100 of them that are attracting retail interests and also simultaneously attracting institutional interests as well. And what's ironic about this is the treasury companies attracting retail investors make it less likely for the retail investors to rotate into altcoins. They know that Bitcoin is what's fueling the treasury adoption phase, and they know that the volatility in Bitcoin and the associated volatility with the equities is what's fueling the disproportionate run up, right? All that sentiment, or rather, they should understand its sentiment, because it really is this what sentiment is what's driving this. So when they rotate all of those coins, they're either going to rotate, in my view, into cash or into Bitcoin. I don't think they're going to chase pumps in altcoins after the fact, mostly just based on what I'm hearing.
Right.
Because when you talk to people, when you see them post on Twitter, they're posting about these treasury companies, but they're posting about Bitcoin as well. They're becoming, ironically enough, more indoctrinated into Bitcoin the further they go into these treasury companies. So it's kind of this recursive sentimental feedback loop that's happening, and they're getting orange pilled by going into Bitcoin through equities. So yeah, this is going to be a fundamentally different cycle. This is not going to be a boom bust cycle in my view. Are we going to see corrections? Yes. I just don't think that as Saylor said, I don't think winter's coming again. We're going to see the 20%, 30%, sure. But the massive drawdowns of the past, I don't think those are going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think the foundation that we're sitting on now is wholly different than we'd seen in previous cycles between institutional adoption. And then, of course, we have Congress, who's actually been passing crypto bills. And with Paul Atkins now at the helm, the SEC is finally playing nice. Do you think that this kind of quieter period of less volatility that we're seeing currently is setting the stage for the next big, major leg up? Or do you expect more of a slow and steady rise as we continue on, as it looks like guardrails are finally being in place and these big boom bust cycles may be more of a thing of the past?
I think that we're going to stair step our way to heaven. That's the best way to explain it. So with everything that we're seeing in terms of institutional adoption, corporate adoption, political appeasement, that to me, as I said earlier, represents a maturing asset. Now, for people that are saying that, oh, we can still see a massive run up, well, define massive. Are we going to go from, what are we at, what right now, 113, 114 to 200? Is that massive? Sure. Are we going to see a run up to 400 plus? No, I don't think so. I've had fun with those predictions myself, but practically I don't think that's going to happen. Just because another function of a maturing market is a scale in market cap, and also it takes more money to move the market. So to go from where we are right now of over 2 trillion market cap to 400, we're looking at an 8 trillion market cap. That's not happening in the next year unless something truly profound takes place. So the reason why I'm saying that we're going to stair step our way to heaven up and to the right is because the most likely outcome is liquidity is going to come into the market. You're going to have people that sell. We'll have sellers at every price point, but we'll go up, we'll consolidate, We'll go up, we'll consolidate, we'll go up, and we'll consolidate. That's really what's been happening. If you take a look at when the ETF launched, Bitcoin broke its all-time high before the halving. And then we consolidated, then we went up to the 70s, we consolidated, then 80, consolidated, then 90, consolidated, then 100, consolidated, and now that's kind of what we're doing. The market is finding a new equilibrium at each price point, and we have people coming in, and we have consistent buy pressure that's also being matched by somewhat consistent sell pressure. But I like to bring up to people, just in the last year, going back to the macro trends and market sentiment, because that really is what's driving the market. When we had the yen carry trade unwind, Bitcoin took a sharp dip, then it rebounded almost within the next 2.5 weeks. You had all this. You have the ongoing situation with Russia. You have the Middle East. You have tariff Armageddon. You have all these different things, all these different market crushing events that didn't crush the market. That's true for Bitcoin and the broader market as a whole. And I think that what we're seeing right now, if you just look at everything as a whole, you have Bitcoin representing one kind of flight to quality. You have AI and the Mag 7 and associated stocks representing another flight to quality. And what we could be seeing is a bifurcation in what we knew about the economy and about the markets. The AI trend is real. The Bitcoin trend is very real. And I think we can see a future where you have Bitcoin going into the multi-trillions of market cap. You have Nvidia going to 5-6 trillion. You have some of the other Mag 7 corporations going into the multi-trillions, further into the multi-trillions, while everything else just kind of flounders about, looking to catch a bid. And we ironically could see a future where we have the stock market doing well, unemployment being so-so, inflation still being somewhat high, and Bitcoin continuing to do its thing.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a new era, seemingly, of Bitcoin resiliency that we had in the past. Or was it a week or something ago? We had, I forget what the news was, come out, and Bitcoin dropped $3,000 and then pretty much made it up over the weekend. And that kind of seems to be the new ecosystem we're living in for Bitcoin, as people are looking at it for what it is, right? The hardest money around. You did mention something, though, that I thought was interesting. You said you didn't think there was probably any way we could see an $8 trillion market cap unless some kind of profound type of event were to occur. What does that mean to you? Is that like the United States comes out and finally says, hey, we're going to actively start buying Bitcoin? Is that the type of profound event that could lead to the old Omega candle that Samson Mow talks about? Or is there maybe something else that you would have in mind that might qualify as that?
Essentially. So when I say 8 trillion, I'm talking about this cycle. So think 2025,
This
2026.
cycle, right.
Yep.
Right.
We're definitely going to 8 trillion. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
So to your question, yeah, if the U.S. government comes out and says we are going to allocate X number of billions towards buying Bitcoin, and we're going to be doing it consistently, and this is our plan for doing so, then all bets are off. That's fundamentally different, because that signals to the world, if the largest economy in the world is buying Bitcoin, maybe the rest of us needs to start doing it too. And I think that starts off like a secondary gold rush in terms of, what we can see in Bitcoin adoption. We'll go from corporate adoption to nation state adoption in the same cycle. That would be massive. Don't think that's going to happen, though, because one, if that came out, the market will front run the United States, and they'll be chasing the bid the entire way up until $500,000. Also, judging by the legislation put forth around the SBR, purchases have to be budget neutral, and they cannot, increase the tax burden on the American citizens. That's the ballpark of it, right? Mm-hmm. Which means that before the United States government can start buying Bitcoin, they have to go through probably a very long and very public approval process to make sure that the funds that they're allocating actually do meet those criteria before they can actually buy Bitcoin. Once that news comes out, if it does come out, the market will front run the United States, and they'll be chasing the bid all the way to the top. That's not how the U.S. government is likely going to operate, I don't think. But yes, that is a tail event that I think could create that kind of a profound outcome. Another one, let's say Powell comes out, or whatever federal chair comes out in the next, because I think Powell's in office till June 2026. So if there's rumors that his replacement is going to cut interest rates to zero or near zero, the fun starts. I think that could be another potential event. And on, a third one along the nation state side, if one of the Middle Eastern countries comes out, and I don't mean like Oman or anything like that. I'm talking about, let's say, Saudi Arabia or the UAE
Yeah.
as a whole came out and said, we want to buy Bitcoin, and we're going to buy Bitcoin, and we're going to be buying X amount of billions of Bitcoin, and we're going to create a regional treasury for Bitcoin. That again is another event that I can see sending things into the stratosphere. Or if the printer turns on again. So those four events, those are the tail events that I can see that are rather profound that can send us into the stratosphere this cycle.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all of us Bitcoiners out there are kind of waiting for Don Juan to come out with, hey, the United States is going to actively start buying. Because to your point, I think everyone in the world is kind of waiting on so-called permission to do the same, but they need to see kind of the leader of the free world to do it first, and then off to the races, baby. I'll pick you up in my helicopter and we'll go out for a night in the town if that happens. But
pretty much,
we're probably gonna have to wait a little bit for that. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so hang tight, Adrian. We got another story. I'm gonna bring you right back because Arthur Hayes, former BitMEX CEO and current professional doom whisperer, says Bitcoin could drop to 100K and Ethereum to 3,000. And this delightful little prediction comes courtesy of a macroeconomic cocktail of weak global credit creation and a serious case of nobody printing enough money fast enough to boost nominal GDP. So naturally, Hayes sees pain on the way. And the market, well, they seem to agree. Total crypto market cap is down more than 3% in just the past 24 hours, now sitting at around 3.76 trillion, which if you're counting is several trillion short of euphoria. Bitcoin itself dipped all the way down to around 113K to a multi-week low of as low as 112 before crawling back up to around 113 like a hungover frat bro pretending that everything's totally fine. I feel great. Ethereum didn't fare much better. It fell from over 3,500 to 3,300 before slightly recovering. Now it's sitting between 35 and 36, kind of looking like it saw a ghost. Now all this bearish energy triggered nearly $372 million in liquidations across crypto markets in the past 24 hours. More than 115,000 traders got totally wiped. Longs took the brunt of it. About 322 million of those liquidations came from people who thought this dip was the bottom. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Short traders didn't escape unscathed either, losing about 65 million bucks, so really everyone lost. Asset-wise, Ethereum led the liquidation parade with around 119 million gone, followed by Bitcoin at 62 million. But not everyone is crying into their wallets. Eric Trump, yep, the presidential offspring, encouraged investors to buy the dip. Because when you think market analysis, you think Eric Trump. And to be fair, his previous dip buying call led to Bitcoin jumping 15% and Ethereum rising 20%. So now the market is hoping lightning strikes twice because who needs fundamentals when you've got nepotistic technical analysis? We're bringing back Adrian. Adrian, Arthur Hayes is calling for macro-driven corrections back to 100K for Bitcoin. Do you think he's right, or is this just fear-mongering dressed up in macro jargon?
Maybe a little bit of both, but here's what I think. I did a post end of July saying that seasonal trends favored a August retrace, and that's just what the data shows. And historically, September and August are not great months for Bitcoin. Now, people came back and said, well, post-halving year, August and September are usually green for Bitcoin, which is true. However, that would be in a usual post-halving year. That would be in a post-halving year where we didn't have a new all-time high before the halving. That would be in a halving year where we didn't have institutional and corporate adoption. That could be changing the trend. And there's a reason why they say sell in May and go away, right? It's very, very common for the summer months to have doldrums like this. So this is just a dip. I don't think it's a sentiment of anything broader than that. I think that markets kind of act like a herd of sheep at times. And it's very, very monkey see, monkey do. We already had a significant run up in everything from the S&P and Mag 7 and everything. And it's natural for there to be some summer profit taking and some natural retracement to new levels, I think. It just makes sense. And this isn't me trying to be a chartist or give you like TA or anything like that. It's just kind of the broad trend that typically markets tend to follow. So with that said, can we see 100? Maybe. Does it really matter? No. If we see 100, I'll just buy. And that's just kind of the way I look at it. I think that we're just seeing a bit of a retrace and a resettling to a new level on the stairs, I guess you can say. We're still going to stair step our way up, but I think that people need perspective, and us going from 123 back to 100, that's pretty much in line with the 20 plus correction that happens in all Bitcoin bull cycles, and it's really par for the course. So it's nothing to be worried about, in my view.
Yeah, and if Bitcoin were to hit that 100K mark, do you see that as a buying opportunity, or is that just a signal to you that this is a normal retracement, or could it be the market's a little overheated beyond fundamentals? What's True North's conviction in that scenario right now?
Well, I can't speak for everyone in True North, but I think all of us would pretty much say it's a buying opportunity because, like I just said, if it hits 100K, I'm buying, regardless. Period. So I think that what it says is not that the market's overheated. I think it's just that you have people taking profits, and the market ran up, and it's looking for a new equilibrium. It overheated, in my view, would mean that we would be seeing far more trailing off in terms of the Mag 7 as a whole. I think we'd be seeing far more trailing off in Bitcoin. Like the drop would have been more precipitous instead of from we went from 123 to 120 to 117 now to 114. I think we're not seeing the market overheated. I think we're just seeing profit taking and the usual people getting shaken out. So no, this is not something broader, bigger. This is just a retrace, and it is definitely, in my view, a buying opportunity, not financial advice for anyone watching this. Of course. Yeah, you and me both. I'm waiting. That 100K is looking awfully tasty right now, so I wouldn't exactly be mad if we saw it slip back there for a little bit. All right, Adrian, we're going to do our deep dive right now. So, gang, roll the stinger, and we're going to get into with Adrian a little more in depth. So, let's do it. All right, so Adrian, we're back and we're here with our deep dive. We want to learn a little bit more about your journey and everything you guys are doing at MSTR True North. So you said you got into Bitcoin all the way back in 2012. What was that like for you? Were you orange-pilled immediately, or did it take you a little bit of time and you had to do some research like many of us did before you went all in? Well, I was living in St. Paul, Minnesota at the time, and the way I got into Bitcoin was the most random thing ever. A guy I knew in college was moving into a house, and this was actually in 2011. And he was moving in with a bunch of gear, like servers and racks and all that stuff, and I kind of just asked him what the heck was he doing. And he said he was mining Bitcoin. He gave me a little spiel on it. I honestly didn't pay any attention. And I saw him over the course of several months into 2012, probably end of 2011, beginning of 2012. We had our first long conversation on Bitcoin. Or wait, was it more 2011? I can't recall. It was a long time ago. But long story short, he and I had a long series of conversations, and he orange-pilled me through a few different means. He explained mining, which at the time I still didn't really quite get. He explained monetary theory. He explained the overall, ethos of Bitcoin. We went deep into the subprime mortgage crisis that kind of, I guess you can say, served as the gestational event for Bitcoin in terms of what happened with the subprime mortgage meltdown. And over time, he was able to, I guess you can say, orange pill me. Now, I'm not going to claim that I was fully convicted in 2012. I bought whatever I bought then, and I definitely sold, those holdings, and I shouldn't have sold, but that's another story for another day. But my conviction in Bitcoin really happened, I would say, in like 2016 to 2017, because I had sold and I saw it run from 1,000 to 20. Once that happened, it was cemented in my mind that Bitcoin is legit and it's here to stay. And at that point, I became really, really convicted in Bitcoin and really, really a believer in Bitcoin, and did everything I could to increase my Bitcoin holdings, whether at that time It was, getting into alts and running the run-ups in altcoins and selling them to go back into Bitcoin, or whether it was just, as they say, mining fiat to buy Bitcoin. I was doing everything that I possibly could from that moment in 2016, 2017 about to really acquire as much Bitcoin as possible because I'd learned my lesson selling when I shouldn't have sold.
Yeah.
And that really cemented it for me. And in terms of strategy, my my journey there was somewhat similar. In 2020, when Saylor announced, I didn't think anything of it really. I thought it was like cool. As I'm sure you recall, or maybe you don't recall, but in 2020 and 2021, everything was running nuts, right? We had the COVID crash, and then all of a sudden, everything kind of started running up
Yeah.
once the printers really went on. So I had a position then, I sold, shouldn't have sold, but I say that to say what sold me on Saylor and what sold me on strategy was that he was going on every single podcast, and I was quite literally watching in real time his conviction grow because
Yeah.
in 2022 we had the rehypothecation bubble and that crash, right? And if he was going to get shaken out, it was going to be then
Right.
because we had posts like every other week saying strategy is going to get margin called. They can't get margin called, by the way. Strategy is going to go bust. Strategy is going to go under. He stayed the course, and not only did he stay the course, but he kept appearing on podcasts. He kept sharing his message. He kept sharing the vision, and I guess you can say his conviction won me over. And I started accumulating a position pretty heavily in 2022 and 2023, and the rest is history. And that kind of led me to becoming more vocal about MSTR and posting about it. And then, that led me to people like Punter Jeff, Jeff Walton, Ben Workman, Mason Ford, a whole bunch of other people that are in the community, but also in those individuals in the True North community. And we've just been kind of exchanging ideas with the broader community ever since.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Saylor, his conviction is nothing but infectious. That's why I've tried to coin the term "Our Lord and Sailor." Run the pop-up for it. But so pass that along. I'm hoping eventually he'll take it till we can make shirts. So how did MSTR True North actually come together as a group? Because you have some really amazing like-minded folk in there. I think you even have Ben Workman, right? And he was just on the show with us last week.
Yep, Ben Workman is there, myself, Punter Jeff, Jeff Walton, a few others. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we were all individuals talking about strategy. We were posting analysis about strategy. We were doing strategy deep dives. We were sharing our bullishness on strategy. And we had all been talking to each other individually. And Jeff kind of just got the idea that, hey, we should all get together and we should talk about strategy together. And it took off. We had what we call MSTR True North World before Strategy World this last year. That was a very, very big success. And quite frankly, it has been a testament to the strength of the retail investor community with regards to strategy. And it's been a testament to the power of social media because we did our first episode and we've been doing episodes ever since. It's been a very, very interesting and humbling experience going through that process because up until 2024, I did not make myself very, very known on social media. I had been in the Bitcoin space under a variety of different handles, not talking about Bitcoin apart from a few posts here and there. But with regards to strategy and with regards to Bitcoin's growth, I decided to step outside of my shell a little bit. And that led to, conversations with Jeff and with Ben and with others. And True North just kind of got together very, very organically through that. And all of us are, obviously Bitcoin believers. We're obviously strategy believers. And I think that that comes through in the fact that we've been so consistent over the course of the last year. Well, longer than that, but when it comes to True North, almost the last year, going on 40 episodes, I believe is the number. And because of that, our steadiness has allowed us to grow a following, and our steadiness and our consistency has positioned us as kind of, thought leaders in the space when it comes to strategy and when it comes to treasury companies. And that's just the long and short of it, really.
Yeah. And what's the significance of the name True North? Is that a nod to Michael Saylor's compass analogies, or is there something deeper there?
I don't know which came first, but True North, we just want to be the true north for information. So we want to be seen as the thought leaders, the voices that you can trust, the voices of reason, the individuals that retail investors can go to for information that they can actually take to the bank. Not literally, I'm not financial advice. But we wanted to be the true north of information, and that's kind of where the name came from. So that's why it's True North. We are the true north of information for strategy. We're the true north of information for Bitcoin, and we want to act the part, and we want to be seen that way as well. And I think that's definitely bared out.
And as we spoke just a minute ago, you've got a seriously diverse crew as part of your team there, from convertible arbitrage nerds, and I say that lovingly, to macro strategists. What kind of discussions are actually happening with you guys behind the scenes?
About everything you just said. So all of us are fairly well versed on convertible notes and ATM equity offerings and algorithmic trading and so on and so forth. But each of us has our own strengths, and that's what we bring to the table. Like I, for instance, I have a good understanding and a strong background with regards to strategy and with regards to the realities of the trade. But I also talk about AI. I also talk about quantum computing. I also talk about a few different things, and we all have a diverse skill set that we bring to the fore. And we all are individuals that are passionate about Bitcoin, and of course, we're believers in strategy as as an opportunity for an investment. So the conversations we have are about everything that we discuss on True North live streams. We talk about arbitrage, we talk about ATM, we talk about MNAV, we talk about the preferred stock offerings. That's a very, very hot topic in the community right now. We talk about it all, and we literally have a message group where we talk about this stuff all day, every day, and then we just come and talk about it again on a live stream. So that's really what we discuss.
That's amazing. And I was reading about you and the team a little bit. I saw something that said you've called TradFi, or described it as being bewildered. What are some of the biggest blind spots traditional finance still has when it comes to Bitcoin or MSTR?
Well, the bewildered statement, that's something that Punter Jeff coined, Jeff Walton. He was the first person that said bewilderment intensifies. And the simplest way to explain that is this. Having Bitcoin on the balance sheet of a corporation creates a fundamental realignment in the way you have to think about a corporate balance sheet. It no longer becomes just about PE ratios or EBITDA or any of the traditional metrics. It becomes about your balance sheet is now being bolstered by what we believe is the world's most pristine asset, and an asset that will only grow in adoption, will only grow in price, and thus will only grow your balance sheet. And what does that allow you to do? It allows you to increase the volatility on your common stock, which will attract more retail investors, as we've seen very, very clearly play out with MicroStrategy or strategy. It allows you to offer collateralized preferred stock offerings. It allows you to pay dividends. It allows you to do all kinds of things, which creates an economy around your equity. That's the way I view it. I view what strategy is doing as creating an economy. And as Bitcoin scales in price, the economy will scale. And in my view, what strategy is doing is that they are operating towards two goals. They're operating towards systemic importance and systemic relevance. Systemic importance in the sense that when Bitcoin is at $250, $500, $1 million, and they have, let's say 800,000 Bitcoin, or maybe even 1 million Bitcoin, and they're over $1 trillion market cap, they are important in the sense that the weight they bear on the market and the weight they can bring to bear on the market in terms of bringing Bitcoin into traditional finance cannot be denied at that point. They become legitimized. Well, they already are legitimized, but they become more so, legitimized more so. They will likely inspire more copycats than they have right now at this point. And their importance will be seen broadly throughout the ecosystem in terms of the ecosystem that they create and the ecosystems that pop up around them, in the sense that we already see that bearing out right now. Strategy, when it first started, It was just the only player in the entire area, right? No one else is doing what they were doing. 5 years later, what do we have? We have two leveraged products on strategy in the form of MSTX and MSTY. Sorry, MSTX and MSTU. We have dividend paying products in MSTY and IMST. We have OwnB, which is an ETF that has all of the treasury companies in it that have over 1,000 Bitcoin. We have the preferred offerings from Strategy, Stripe, Stride, and Stretch, all providing dividend payments and all attracting an entirely new investor base to the strategy economy. I know individuals that are invested in the preferreds, but not in the common. So right there, they've created a bifurcation in their own economy, and they're bringing in a broader investor base. Now, they've done that in 5 years. Imagine what they're going to do in another 5 when they have a larger market cap, when Bitcoin is higher in price, when a lot of the other corporate adopters that we see right now have likely followed their footsteps and they're offering prefers of their own. That is systemic importance. Systemic relevance, in my view, is that, okay, now that you've been proven as systemically important, you are systemically relevant because your success and failure actually moves aspects of the market. So Bitcoin and its corporate adoption will become a very, very relevant narrative as your success has inspired copycats, which will inspire more copycats, which will inspire more copycats, and which will push Bitcoin adoption even further into the heart of traditional finance. And as Bitcoin adoption grows by itself, and as corporate adoption grows, and as institutional adoption grows, you, because you are the first mover, you, because you are that first true corporate adopter, and in all likelihood going to be the largest corporate adopter, because I don't see anyone beating them or anyone scaling to their level at this time, you are now a economy onto yourself within TradFi. So those two elements are, I think, is what strategy is going towards, and that is why the world is bewildered. They can't make sense of it. They don't understand why strategy has been able to do what they have done. And that's because I think many still don't understand why Bitcoin has done what it's been able to do. Bitcoin's story is strategy's story, but strategy's story is not Bitcoin's story. And strategy wholeheartedly adopting Bitcoin has confused TradFi because they can't make sense of it. It's no longer about PE ratios. It's no longer about EBITDA, like I just said. It is no longer about stock buybacks. It's no longer about everything that we know about TradFi. It's about bringing a new asset into the heart of TradFi and weaponizing it, getting credit ratings from it, scaling it. That's something that they can't quite make sense of just yet, and I think that is represented in the fact that strategy is, constantly under attack in terms of people saying, "Well, what if you fail? What if this? What if that?" They're trying to make sense of it. We're still in that phase right now, and that's why that's why Jeff and that's why we use the term bewildered. They can't make sense of it yet, and so it's going to have to click. And once it clicks, we move on to phase 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to try and make sense of right now, especially with people coming from TradFi and starting to dip their toes into these orange waters, specifically with this treasury strategy stuff, right? We got from Saylor to structured debt. It all gets really complex. How does your team at MSTR True North break that all down so the signal doesn't get lost in the noise that's out there?
Well, we do our own research. We actually read SEC filings. We actually have conversations about these instruments. We research these instruments. We research how they can be applied. We watch the quarterly calls very, very intently, so that when we come to the market with information or posts, people can trust them. That's the simplest way to put it. Mm-hmm. There's no other way to make sense of this other than putting in the legwork. Just like it took me from 2012 to 2017, so like 5 years, to really become entrenched in Bitcoin. There's no shortcut. You have to go through that learning curve, right? You have to go through that experience. Same with strategy. As I said, when I first heard about it, I wasn't sold. I didn't see convertible bonds and preferred offerings and all this coming down the pipeline. I couldn't have, because no one had done it at that point. My conviction has grown with time. And I really think that just speaks to what we do. This is literally what we talk about all day, every day. And it comes through in the conversations that we have in our live streams, and it comes through in the conversations that we have on X.
Yeah. And we're so glad we have resources like you out there, because as we've seen time again, whether it's, Joe Consumer or it's Michael Saylor himself, those that are willing to take the time to do the research on Bitcoin ultimately are the ones that end up reaping the benefits of Bitcoin. But it's on you to educate yourself. And we've got a lot of great resources popping up every day, very much like your team at MSTR True North. And speaking of your team, you guys aren't really quite a fund, but you're also not just a podcast. How do you go about defining MSTR True North's role in this broader financial ecosystem?
I would say that we are a bunch of guys that are passionate about Bitcoin and passionate about strategy that get together and talk. That's pretty much it. We're definitely not a fund. We are definitely not. I mean, in a way, you can say that we are a podcast because I've branched out and started doing True North Now episodes where I'm interviewing other treasury companies, so the CEOs from other treasury companies in the space. So that's, podcast-like. But, we're not paid for anything that we do. We do not generate revenue for anything that we do. So we are really just, as I said, a bunch of guys that know the trade, that understand the space, that come together and share information and share alpha. And for the lack of a better term, I think we represent the retail investor, and we represent what the retail investor would like to see in terms of coverage. We all don't agree on everything. I don't agree on some things. Some others don't agree on other things. But that kind of diverse thought base is what gives us our strength, and that's what we leverage.
Yeah.
And that is what we bring to the table every Wednesday for our live streams. So, yeah, that's the best way to describe it, really.
Yeah, I like that. And I also like to hear that you guys don't necessarily agree on everything, right? A bunch of yes men in a room isn't exactly providing people with all the information they need if you're all nodding your head at the same stuff. So it's nice to have a collective of different minds and different opinions to really kind of sift through the noise and figure out what's really happening and what you should be paying attention to as we enter this new realm of this Bitcoin financial ecosphere that we're experiencing in real time. And with that being said, what do you hope listeners or followers take away from being part of your MSTR True North community?
Stop listening to loud, screaming voices online that try to push narratives. That's the first thing. Do your own research. That's the second thing. And if you are involved in this opportunity, you have to be clear about what your intentions are. Are you an options trader? Are you a trader? Are you an investor? Or, I hate to even use this term, are you a believer? Because there's some people that are believers that will ride this train until the wheels come off, if they even do come off. I would say that when it comes to Bitcoin, I'm definitely an investor and I'm definitely a believer. When it comes to strategy, I'm an investor. I am somewhat of a believer. So that, I think, is what guides people's lens when they're looking at this. And I think that if people are honest about what lens they're coming to this from, they will experience less frustration in the natural volatility that comes with Bitcoin, and obviously that comes with something like strategy or other treasury companies. And then finally, I would say when it comes to Bitcoin, when it comes to corporate adoption, when it comes to maybe even at some point nation state adoption, what we need to realize is that all of this is good for Bitcoin. And being adversarial against one another within the space doesn't really solve anything. And it's the net negative. So I do think that of everything that I said, if I can get people to understand that we are all in this process, in this historical moment together, and we should really see it that way, I think that would be it.
I love that. And I know we got to let you go here, but before we do, Adrian, I'm sure there are so many people in our audience that are like, man, we need to get on this MSTR True North bandwagon ourselves and learn and listen to some of the brightest minds in the industry. Where should I be sending them so they can get some of the best signal that's out there right now and hear from some of the best people in the business?
Well, you have the page up right now. That's our website. So that'll be the first stop. The second stop is if you want to see our X live stream. which also we have a link to right there on the screen. You can find our live stream on Wednesday nights from either my page, the MSTR True North page on Twitter. Go from the website here to the live stream. There'll be options to find it. I would say that if you're interested in seeing it this upcoming Wednesday, tomorrow, that'll be your best bet. On the website, we have a repository of some of our old episodes. They're also up on YouTube as well. So if you go to YouTube and you type in MSTR True North, we have our own channel on YouTube now that has all of our old live streams uploaded. And you can find the True North Now streams there as well if you type in True North Now, and they should pop up on YouTube as well. And so those would be the best ways to find it. We're all on X. I think the website also leads directly to our profiles on X. And those would be the best ways that you can find us and get some information about MSTR True North.
Love it. I was going to ask, what is your X account? Because I'm sure you have gained a number of new fans today, and they would love to hear more of your analysis and thoughts on as we continue through this new Bitcoin landscape that we're going through here. So what's the best place that they can catch more of your words of wisdom?
So it'll be at Adrian @Adrian_R_Morris on Twitter. That'll be the best way to find me. And all capitals for the first letters, so capital A, capital R, capital M. And yeah, that's where I'm on Twitter. That's pretty much my only social media. I have a LinkedIn that I haven't updated in like 5 years. So that's pretty much the only way you're going to find me online.
International man of mystery. I like it, Adrian. I do. Well, I got to say, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It was really just a blast getting to listen to you and your experiences and wisdom. You've been in the game probably longer than most, and it's always great to hear a real OG talk about how they got orange pilled and their journey that we're still experiencing today. So we really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us in the Blockchain Report. We hope to have you back sometime soon. If you ever have any announcements at MSTR True North, we'd love to break them here. So thank you so much, Adrian. It was a great time having you.
It was my pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on, and I'll be happy to come back on anytime.
We would love it. All right, well, we're going to go to break. When we come back, more Blockchain Report coming your way, so stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you, don't go!
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxom, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxom, rock-solid markets.
All right, welcome back. Well, you got a real treat for you today. We have our second guest of the day. He's a gentleman named Jimmy Ramirez, better known as Bitcoin Jimmy. He's been stacking since 2017 through real sacrifice and recently lost his entire Bitcoin savings to a scam app just 1 week after the birth of his second child. It's the kind of thing that could happen to anyone, so we're here to talk with him, not only to hear his story, but to help others avoid going through the same. Please give a big blockchain report welcome to the show to Jimmy. Jimmy, how are you today? Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. Hope everything is going,
how you doing?
Better your way.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Some days are better than others, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we really do appreciate you coming on the show to kind of share your experiences. Hopefully we can prevent this from happening to others going, in the future. I guess the best place to start would be from the beginning. What first drew you back or drew you into Bitcoin? I guess it was all the way back in 2017.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I used to work in banking. I was a mortgage commercial lender, and one of my clients actually brought it to my attention. And what's funny is that he was like in his 70s, and this guy was kind of like eccentric, like he's always into like these odd things, like Bitcoin being odd in 2017. So he brings it to my attention. I looked into it and I was like, you know what? Let me dabble into it and see what's it's about. And then just like any other, just like most Bitcoin traders or people that get into it, they start to trade it thinking that they're going to make money, and that never goes as planned. And then you get into the altcoins, the shit coins and stuff like that. But ultimately, everything led to Bitcoin, and then my focus being towards on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting to hear that from a 70-year-old. Usually that's not the age that we're hearing people pushing Bitcoin. But hey, I'm glad to hear it's reaching the elder crowd as well, not just us youngins. When I was reading your story, I saw that you described accumulating Bitcoin as an act of pure sacrifice. Can you walk us through what that sacrifice looked like in your day-to-day life as you were trying to build your financial future through this new hard asset class?
I mean, there's like so many things that I would say. Like, I wish I had my old X account. Like, this is my second account. My first one was suspended. Like, for example, I have a chipped tooth in my back that I forego getting fixed just to buy more Bitcoin, is an example. Or I sold all my real estate and dumped it all into Bitcoin. Or I literally, like, to this day, I only eat, it's either rice and eggs or like ramen noodles. And like, I don't eat out. I can't even tell you the last time I went out to eat with my wife. For our anniversaries, like my wife's, our wedding anniversaries, May 23rd, we would buy like $20 little trinkets that has some kind of significant value, but the whole point is not to spend money and to kind of like dump the money into Bitcoin. So it's just like little things like that,
Yeah.
We hardly go on vacations. I mean, we'll go to, what we used to do is like, for like a vacation, for example, we would, on Destin was our like favorite, like, resort, like place to, not resort, but like our favorite beach to go travel to is actually where I proposed to my wife. We would take day trips. So like, for example, we would leave on a Friday morning, like at 3 a.m., drive all the way there. We'll get to this public beach or this public restaurant that's on the beach itself. We'll have like public parking, and then we'll get there like around 8 in the morning. And then we'll be there from 8 in the morning till about 4 or 5 in the evening, and then drive back home and only spend the money on gas. So like, those are the type of sacrifices that, we will make in order to, as I mentioned, forego the now to benefit the later. So.
Wow. I really respect your conviction. I mean, but there must have been moments, or were there, where you're like, is this really worth it? As you're skipping vacations and skipping going out to eat with your wife, like how many times did you, were there instances where you're like, I don't know if I can do this like this anymore?
No, I don't think I've ever, like, I mean, I've questioned, is Bitcoin the end all be all? You know, but that's like anyone, like anyone should have that kind of, I don't know if it's a curiosity or that kind of, you know, to play like devil's advocate or anything like that. But no, I never for once said, you know, this is stupid. I don't think I should be doing this. You know, I think I should be enjoying life now. But that's the thing, like, I'm enjoying, you know, I was enjoying life, or I am enjoying life. You know, I'm here with the ones that I love, and it's like simplicity was good enough so that I can, you know, have something in the future that I can say, look what I sacrificed. Look at all that I've done, and this is a pristine, you know, asset. It's kind of hard to put my thoughts into words, but no, to answer your question, no, I never once like second guessed it or doubted the sacrifices.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, the level of conviction you have is more than admirable. It also makes me wonder, like, Michael Saylor, is that actually you back there with like a mask on? Because like that is Michael Saylor level conviction, and I say that in the most flattering way possible. I really respect it. But then, you know, as things happen sometimes in life, we get a curveball. And that curveball for you seemed to be Celsius. You lost a significant amount of Bitcoin in their collapse. What was going through your mind when you realized the withdrawals had been paused?
I mean, you want me to get like into details of like how I was feeling? Like,
whatever you're comfortable sharing. I mean, you know, you don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but you know, whatever you're comfortable.
No. So during Celsius, like, so Celsius happened June, it was like June something, June 18th, I think, the pause. And then my first son was born the next month. So that was two life events. I would consider Celsius a life event, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
And it was just like, when it happened, I would look at my son with guilt, or not guilt. I would look at my son hoping that it would relieve the disparity, you know, the despair that I was going through. But all I could see back was my guilt of like looking for yield and greed and stuff like that. And it just, I went through a really bad period of like depression and alcohol abuse and suicidal ideations and stuff like that. But fortunately, you know, I was able to kind of work through all that, you know, through therapy and whatnot. But now it's like the cycle repeats.
Well, you know, I'm certainly glad, and I think it clearly shows you had the mental fortitude to withstand like such a tragic life event like that, you know. And as you looked back on it, were there any red flags in hindsight that you wish maybe you had paid more attention to when it came to doing, you know, business with Celsius?
The thing is like I wasn't on X at the time. If I would have been on X, I would have known the other side of the story, because all I was hearing is Mashinsky's like YouTube posts and stuff like that. Like, you know, so I was only ever hearing one side of the story. So what I would tell people is, you know, play devil's advocate. Like I said, you know, question it. Even now, like with these lending products now, like I am so skeptical of them, because who's to say what's happening behind closed doors? I mean, yeah, you're signing these terms of agreements, but so what? I mean, these people like lawyered up so they can, you know, fight tooth and nail, and so who's to know what's really happening behind the scenes? So that's why I'm not a proponent of lending your Bitcoin and anything like in that nature, any yield and stuff like that. It's too good to be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's usually a good. I mean, I grew up on that phrase. My mother always said, "If it's too good to be true, it probably is." And we all, unfortunately, kind of learn that in our own way, at some point or another in our own life. And then you fast forward to this year, 7.4 Bitcoins stolen via a fake app on the Apple App Store. Can you take us through what happened there? I mean, from download to realization, like what was that like? Because it's crazy. The App Store. We trust the App Store, I thought,
It is crazy. And like, I'm getting so much backlash on X, like the negativity and stuff like that. People calling me scammer or like I'm retarded or whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so to kind of backtrack, I got a cold card queue earlier this year in February, and I was using the Sparrow mobile, the desktop wallet, and it was fine. Like, it was kind of an inconvenience to kind of like send money or Bitcoin back and forth to cover any kind of like expense or anything like that. For whatever reason, my cold card queue wouldn't. Like, I couldn't scan the QR code on my computer because my camera is not it's only a 5 megapixel camera. So I would have to upload everything via like a micro SD transaction. But anyways, so I decided, let me see if I can find like a more convenient way of, sending transaction. Like, say if I'm out and about and I need to send something. So I found the Sparrow app, and yeah, it's shame on me that I didn't see the ratings and all that. Like, I can't even recall why I didn't think twice about it or why I didn't look into it. It just seemed like it was such a quick thing. Just go look for the app, ignore all the red flags, download it and do what I had to do. But now, looking back, yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that. But anyways, so I downloaded the Sparrow app on July 15th, and then I didn't need to make a transaction until the 25th, and that's when I was like, okay, let me do that. So I opened up the app, and then immediately asks me for my seed phrase, and so shame on me for putting in my seed phrase, and I do that. And then instantly I get an error message on there saying that the error, like, it didn't load. And I'm like, hold on, I know I put it in right, because I have my C phrase like memorized and stuff like that. And then I go to the Sparrow, like the desktop app, and I look, and the funds are gone. So, and my thing is like, I've experienced like uploading my seat. Like, I would make like dummy wallets just to test out like what would happen hypothetically if I lost my my cold storage device. I mean, like, you got to put your CFATs in some kind of like wallet to upload, your coins and stuff like that. So I didn't think twice that the app that I'm downloading was nefarious and compromised, So, because like you said, it's Apple, like, you would think they would vet these things and stuff like that, but apparently not. So,
yeah, man, I'm so sorry. The scammers these days are just reaching this level of sophistication that's beyond, I think, what most of us ever anticipated. When we started the show about 6 months ago, I, for instance, was almost the victim of something with Coinbase, where I got a text message the day before saying that somebody tried to access my wallet from Nevada. The next day, I got a phone call from someone at Coinbase who knew everything about me. And like, I mean, there's no way, I couldn't understand how they knew. They knew my address, they knew everything, how they could know this if it wasn't Coinbase, right? And they lead you down this rabbit hole and gain your trust. And
well, the thing about that is that, well, of course, Coinbase, I don't know how many data breaches they've had of like clients' information. So that gets stolen, that gets on the black web, and then that gets cross-referenced with public information. Like, I'm sure you could Google your name, and there's like a list of phone numbers that are associated with you and addresses. So those are just like, I forgot what kind of like scams, but you know, I kind of feel like that's a little bit different from what happened to me, because it's not like you went to Coinbase itself, the app, and did something and then you got compromised. You know, you had a phishing attempt because of public record information. Me, I go to a trusted source to download an app, and then the app steals my my Bitcoin. So
it's different. No, I totally.
I mean,
I'm just saying, like,
it's somewhat different, but it's still it still sucks.
Yeah, no. And your situation, you know, wasn't user error in like a traditional sense at all. This was an attack through a trusted platform. So with that being said, like, what's kind of your message to Apple right now that they're letting these nefarious, you know, clone apps into the App Store, right? I mean, you feel like we trust Apple, but that kind of undermines that trust, right?
I mean, I really don't have anything to say to Apple. I mean, they should. I mean, I know I'm not the only victim of a scam like this via Apple. So, I mean, Apple should be held accountable to some extent, you know, like do some more like warnings. I don't know. Like there's no warning on when you download an app from the Apple Store. I mean, probably in the fine print. I mean, God only knows what's in there, but like who reads all that? And then they get away with all this stuff, you know? So it's like something has to change, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do these experiences you've had at all change how you view the Bitcoin ecosystem? Like, are you still all in on Bitcoin? Do you still believe in it the same way you did before? And this is just a product of bad actors in the space doing, you know, shitty things to people? Or is this kind of reframed how you think of this whole crypto, specifically Bitcoin ecosystem?
No, I mean, I'm still a proponent of Bitcoin. You know, I still believe in its ethos and what it's meant to be self-sovereign. But the problem is, it's like you think you know what you know until you don't know, you know, until you have to find out that you didn't know it. So it's like you don't know what you don't know. And these scammers are getting more sophisticated every day, you know, with like new scams. So you won't know until someone experiences it and then spreads the word, right? So yeah, I still believe in Bitcoin. Yes, I'm still doing everything in my power to, you know, sell things at the house here to try to buy more like, you know, but right now, me personally, like, I can't, it's such a touchy subject to open up X and to like, or get on a pot or a space and where they're talking about its projection and it's going to go, you know, to 200,000 by the end of the year or something like that kind of is a trigger because shit, I'm already like, it's already not that it's too late, but I'm 7.4 Bitcoins behind now. And to start over, to DCA back again, like I'd rather not know where it's going and just keep at it and keep chipping at it again and again and again at any means possible. And if you know, I'm just trying to be oblivious to the news at this point because I don't care, for one, and two, I know where it's going. So
yeah, well, I got to say, the level of conviction you have is admirable, and hopefully, you know, your story makes its way to the top to a MICHAEL Saylor of sorts, because I think at the very least he would
maybe
really
to Tim Cook
admire how, he would tell Tim Cook or, you know, maybe help out in some way. What's kind of been the response from the broader crypto community since you went public with your story? You said some people had some harsh things to say, but I think anybody that's been in crypto for specifically, you know, for any amount of time would have to at least empathize a little bit about what you're going through. You haven't truly been in this market unless you've been either scammed or almost been scammed a couple of times.
You know, the world's cruel. It's a cruel world out there. When people just attack you consistently, you know, it hurts. But you know, I have a huge support system on X, like the Bitcoin Army. It's a group that I'm a part of. It's like over 6,000 members. We hold space. We hold spaces almost every day on different topics. Their outcry for my support and defending me, and like with all these negative comments and stuff like that, is priceless to me, because I can't sit there and tell somebody, hey, you know, like, for example, like multiple people are saying that I should take ownership. Like, how can I take ownership if there are legal, like, if all this can be used against me in some kind of legal battle, some legal court case, why am I going to sit there and say this was my fault, this is all on me? Which it wasn't, because there are multiple parties involved. And again, like, it's ridiculous. Like, people don't use common sense. And then I guess people are so jaded, you know, I guess for so many people creating like fake sympathy scams or whatever like that. Like, I don't, just the level of hatred from these people is intense. And I have to like step away from X every so often, because I'm reading them, and then like they're attacking me, they're attacking my children, they're attacking my wife, and I can only handle so much before it does tend to get to me. But again, I'm just so thankful that I have the Bitcoin Army to defend me, because yeah, no, man, I can understand as much as I can, you know, without having gone through it. And you know, just know, like, you are not alone in this. I'm glad to hear there is some support for you out there. And the people that don't know, like, they just don't know. They don't know. And it's not indicative of anything aside from that. And I think the level of perseverance you're showing right now is really admirable in sharing your story with the world, because there are lessons to be learned here. And you could stay in hiding and not bring these types of issues to light, which really wouldn't do any good for anybody. But you're putting on a brave face, and you're going out there and you're sharing your tale, so that hopefully others out there this isn't a brave
won't have to experience this kind of thing. Well, hey man, I think it looks pretty brave coming out here, sharing your story. That's a hard thing to do, man. And I got a lot of respect for you going out there, sharing it, coming on our show, and helping, you know, other people understand, like, these things happen and you need to be safe in this space, as you do in any financial arena. But we're still kind of getting out of this wild, wild west area of Bitcoin and crypto. And shit happens to good people. And I'm really sorry that happened to you. But for all of our listeners out there, or people that are watching the show who might think, this could never happen to me, what would you want them to know so that they can hopefully avoid this type of catastrophic thing, you know, happening to them and their family too?
Question everything. Yeah.
You question everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be paranoid. I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't want to be like a doomer or anything, but this is just going to get worse as technology gets more advanced, as AI, as like all that shit. This is just going to get worse. And you know, reach out to people. Like, if you have a question about something, don't just stay, you know, just don't try to like figure it out on your own. I would reach out to people, get on spaces. You know, there's so many like resources out there. Like, I wish I would have just asked somebody, is this legit? Like, it's so stupid of me. Like, I go to the Sparrow website after the fact and it's like, hey, we don't have a mobile app. And it's like, well, thanks for telling me. So,
man. Well, I mean, Jimmy, man, I'm so sorry, but I got to tell you, I really have a lot of respect for putting it out there. And let's be real, I think there's a lot of people in the Bitcoin community, if they're not already, they're going to rally around you as they learn more about this tale. And, you know, you're one of us. And as one of us, we're all susceptible to these types of things. And I got to tell you, really, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your story with us. I can't tell you how sad I am for you and your family, but you seem like the kind of guy that doesn't wallow too long, gets back on the horse, and, you know, finds that direction they need to go to move forward. And it sounds like you're doing that right now. So I really respect your conviction and your bravery and your honesty through all this. I really do. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are watching the show right now that, you know, are now made aware of these types of things and would probably like to know how your journey continues to evolve, as I think it's just getting started. So with that being said, what's the best place people in our audience can go to follow you and learn more about what you're going through, in hopes that they can then educate themselves further, and we can hopefully start to eliminate these types of situations in the future? I think you have an X account, right? The Bitcoin Jimmy?
Yeah, I have an X account. It's Bitcoin Jimmy on X. Honestly, right now, like, I'm not really posting anything. It's like still kind of like a touchy subject and stuff like that. But if you really want like true support or information or anything like that, I would suggest join the Bitcoin Army. There's so many, I mean, from like technical analysis to like what to watch out for, or to just like, you know, there's a variety of different posts that we post on the Army's timeline. So that's the best place I would suggest. Like, if you really want like a sense of camaraderie, I would say start there. They're the greatest. I mean, I've been with them since the beginning. I'm like the third member, and then we've grown over like 6,000 members now, and it's only getting stronger. So if you want to feel like you belong somewhere and not tweeting to the void and not feeling like an outcast, join the Army. We're here, you know, they're here to help. We're here to help. Like, the amount of like podcasts, for example, that I was able to get on was because of the Army. The amount of like the outcries of what happened I can only thank the Army. Like, I'm one individual, but with all them, you know, my reach, I mean, goddamn, it got to the point where Apple deleted the app, like, even though it was like a week later. I mean, they eventually deleted the app. So that, you know, I don't think I one individual would have been able to do that myself. So yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I got to say, I really appreciate you sharing your tale to us with us today, and being one of the generals of that Army that's going to help people in the future not have to undergo these really just, you know, tragic happenings. And we really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your tale. And yeah, a lot of respect, man. You know, that's all I can say, dude. We're really sorry that this happened to you, but we really appreciate you sharing that story, so that it doesn't hopefully happen to other people as we move on in the future. So thank you again so much for joining us today, Jimmy. It was a real pleasure having you on the show. And, you know, I really wish the best to you and your family going forward. You seem like a real resilient, strong man, and I think that's going to carry you and your family forward just fine as we move into the future. You seem like a doer. So a lot of respect, and thank you for joining us on the show today.
Definitely.
Thank you. All right, we're taking a break. More Blockchain Report when we're back. All right, boys and girls, welcome back to the Bull Run. And again, real big thanks to Bitcoin Jimmy for joining us in the show today, sharing his story so that hopefully that doesn't happen to you and yours at home. It was a real tough one. And make sure to go follow him on X at Bitcoin Jimmy so that you can learn from the things he went through and hopefully it doesn't happen to you as well. But let's get back to the Bull Run here. It's a casual little bombshell from Arkham Intelligence dropped this week. Apparently, back in 2020, a hacker stole 127,000 Bitcoin from a Chinese mining pool, Lubian. At the time, it was worth $3.5 billion, but thanks to Bitcoin's price refusing to stay cheap, that stash is now worth $14.5 billion. Ouch. Which officially makes it the largest crypto hack in history. Congrats to whoever beat Bybit's sad little $1.5 billion headline from back in February. Now, Lubian, for the record, was operating mining facilities in China and Iran, and at one point controlled 6% of Bitcoin's global hash rate, which is basically the crypto version of having keys to the kingdom if you also decided to leave the door wide open. Arkham's on-chain analysis found that on December 28th of 2020, more than 90% of Lubian's Bitcoin was drained. Then, 2 days later, even more was scooped from a Bitcoin Omni-layer address, because when it rains incompetence, it pours. Neither Lubian nor the hacker ever disclosed anything, which is cool, totally normal behavior when you lose a casual 9-figure treasure chest. The funds stayed dormant until July of 2024, when they were moved into what Arkham called a consolidation event. That movement is what finally blew the lid off the whole thing. Arkham linked several addresses tied to the stolen funds. Each had received OP return messages from Lubian. The mining pool spent 1.4 Bitcoin across 1,500 separate transactions, not on mining, not on security, but on begging the hacker to please give the coins back. That's not a spoof. That's a desperate company trying to whisper sweet nothings to someone who robbed them blind. Lubian is suspected of using a flawed key generation algorithm, which may have exposed private keys to brute force attacks, basically Fort Knox locked with a WordPress password. They still hold over 11,800 Bitcoin, worth around $1.35 billion, which means even after getting looted, they're still doing better than most hedge funds. As for the hacker, they're still holding the entire stash, still haven't moved it, and is now the 13th largest Bitcoin holder in the world. One rung above Wall Street whale, one rung below Bond villain. Arkham's report is now the kind of thing that makes you realize Bitcoin doesn't get hacked, bad operational security does. All right, let's finish things up today with a little AIAIO. Can we please roll that stinger for me? All right, in a lighter note, in today's episode of Elon Asked the Robots, Musk took to X to ask Grok, his homegrown AI sidekick, whether quantum computing could crack Bitcoin's SHA-256 hashing algorithm. Because apparently IBM's quantum roadmap announcement got Elon feeling a little nervous. IBM's plan, release Blue Jay by 2033, a 2,000 qubit beast capable of handling over 1 billion gate operations. Sounds impressive. Also sounds like a bad sci-fi villain. But back to Grok, the AI responded like a digital therapist saying, chill. Okay, well, not literally, but it said the chance of quantum computers cracking Bitcoin in the next 5 years is near zero. By 2035, the odds rise to under 10%, still very much in the not today, Satan territory. The current tech, well, it tops out at 1,000 noisy qubits. Bitcoin would require millions of error-corrected qubits to even blink, so we're not there yet. Grok also mentioned that Bitcoin could eventually upgrade to SHA-3 or SHA-512 because, hey, crypto protocols, they can evolve too. Now, why would Elon care? Well, maybe because Tesla holds over 11,500 BTC worth about $1.1 billion. Hey, and SpaceX, well, they own another $850 million worth of Bitcoin. Musk himself is a known Bitcoin holder as well, so this is less random tech nerd curiosity and more checking if I should panic sell. For now, Grok says no, Bitcoin is safe, and the robots said so. All right, boys and girls, that is a wrap for today's episode of the Blockchain Report. Big thanks to our guests today, Adrian Morris and Bitcoin Jimmy, for sharing their wisdom and their stories out there. And as always, thank you for tuning into the show. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to RoxomTV and yours truly at Hank at RoxomTV on all platforms that matter. And we'll be back here tomorrow, Wednesday, with more Bitcoin bedlam and crypto chaos for your viewing pleasure. Until then, sayonara, and as always, hodl strong.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy. Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxom, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxom, rock-solid markets.
The future of capital markets runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxom, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at roxom.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
Why am I not in this thing? Like, I'm looking at my chart now, like Bitcoin's up 77% in the last year. Like, what else is up 77%? And so if you don't have some in your portfolio, exactly as you said, you're shorting it. Money is actually a very controlled, very kind of, managed, manipulated